Rocky Burke has been in law enforcement for over 50 years with experience as an EMT. Now he wants to bring his experience back to the Charleston County Sheriff's Office, where he once worked many years ago, this time to become Charleston County Sheriff. I talked one-on-one with Rocky for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Rocky Burke, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you. Glad to be here, sir.
I know that obviously you have been in law enforcement for many, many years, and I know that you're one of the 4 candidates seeking the Republican nomination for Charleston County Sheriff next month. You have served as a first responder for nearly 50 years, both in law enforcement and fire service. So tell me, why Charleston County Sheriff? Why now, Rock?
I feel that I have a lot to offer the sheriff's office, having worked for them several times throughout my career, over the 50-year career. In today's world, in the modern society, with all that's going on, the gun violence, homelessness, mental health, illness, substance abuse problem, fentanyl, all the other issues, the gun violence and what have you, and everything, the educational system that's out of whack at this time, and things of that nature. My 50 years in public safety in Charleston County, and just about every agency in Charleston County I have worked for. And I'm a dedicated public servant, dedicated to public safety, and feel that I have a lot to offer with my experience, education, and training to continue to provide a safe, secure environment for all communities and all people and citizens of Charleston County going forward.
Yes, sir.
And the sheriff's office has to be a collaborative member of public safety, has to be a collaborative member with fire, EMS, emergency management, the county governments, the community outreach, the communities and all. And it's got to be a total effort as a public safety collaboration in providing these safe, secure, and environments to serve and protect and defend the citizens.
So, Mr. Rocker, let me ask you this, Dan. What is the state of the Charleston County Sheriff's Office from your standpoint?
Well, in 2020, we had a 32-year incumbent that left office, was voted, voted out of office. And that was a 32-year incumbent that I view as being extremely to the right. Okay. Now, the incumbent sheriff that won in 2020, I see extremely to the left. Okay. And of course, when a change in leadership just like that, we have a lot of organizational dysfunction, culture dysfunction, generational differences now in the sheriff's office, retention and recruitment problems that lead into them internal factors and external factors of salary and the economy, salary, generational differences, poor leadership, poor supervision, and that's the way I see it. That the current incumbent, who I worked for or worked with several years or a couple of years on the road as patrol deputies at Charleston County, and know her real well. Fine person, fine officer and stuff like that. But I just think that the leadership style that's in there right now is not conducive to the culture that's needed in the sheriff's office to prevent these happenings of excessive force by deputies, so to speak. These traffic accidents involving deputy sheriffs now, that's being determined that they being charged with and stuff like that. I want to carry a more proactive, preventive, transformational leadership in there to change all that, to try to change the policies, roll back the policies, restore some of the policies, restore good training, and get the staffing levels back up to where they need to be. And I just think that the decisions that have been made by the current leadership, current sheriff and her command staff leadership in there, has been flawed to the point that it just don't include everybody. It don't take into account the generational differences, the and the work ethic and things of that nature, and just don't follow up on things to try to prevent these things. To prevent.
Yeah, and what things are they not following up on that are making a big impact on the culture and the generational differences?
And what I'll try to do is
Yes,
try
sir.
to from what I see from the outside looking in,
Sure.
okay?
Sure.
And of course, I hear
Yeah.
a lot of comments from people that still work in there. I've heard from people in there that they're overworked, underpaid, and not respected. Okay? And then when money is allocated for pay raises in the sheriff's office, it doesn't seem that everybody gets the pay raise, that it's more or less the upper command staff on down that gets the pay raises. And then another thing too is that people that are incumbent in them positions in the step plan, when they get pay raises and somebody gets newly promoted to that same rank as somebody that's been in the step plan for 2 or 3 years as a sergeant, they start out making more than that incumbent sergeant that's been in the step 2 or 3 years. So, that system is flawed of how to do the step plan in there. And that causes a lot of morale issues and things of that nature. That you just don't get no recognition for your years of service. And then also the other thing about the training and the policies and stuff like that is that, and I'll refer back to the Jamal Sutherland incident in the jail that broke loose the day that the incumbent sheriff was sworn in.
Right.
At that time, and I'm looking at the video, I just seen some avenues there that I just didn't like the way the reaction was to the young man, as far as nobody jumped in and started trying to do first aid measures or something, to try to bring him back, everybody. And that's just from the outside looking in, being a firefighter, EMT, and law enforcement officer.
Sure.
Been doing emergency medical response for 50 years in the fire service and what have you. And I just think at that time that when an incident happens, it has to be thoroughly investigated from within, outside agencies, which is what's being done now. But it just needs to start with that first incident. I mean, I just don't understand that when you have these incidents happening like they are, that after the first incident, that if it's not investigated thoroughly to see what policies were violated, what training is needed, and more leadership, different leadership to correct these problems so that you don't have 8 more deaths in the jail in 2022. If you have an excessive force or you have unfortunate incident where deputy sheriffs, high speed, going to calls and stuff like that, running into people and killing them, at some point in time, you have 2 or 3 of them. It's just the first incident. You got to go in there and retrain people and show the leadership. And then the other thing too in the current sheriff's office that I see is that it's all being tried to manage from behind a desk through emails and through command staff instead of the sheriff. What I have vowed running for sheriff, and when I get elected sheriff, I have vowed in my first news release conference to lead from the front lines, be a boots on the ground type of sheriff. Getting out there with the troops, see what's going on, see what's needed, see what training is needed. Not to micromanage it, but just to see And now I know the command staff might not like that, but
Okay.
it's what's needed. It's what's
So,
needed.
so do you think that this current sheriff's office is actually micromanaging things versus retraining and actually hiring professionals to take care of these situations and these investigations?
No, I don't see them micromanaging the current sheriff's office. No, that's what I'm saying. Is you got to, like when these first incidents happen, and things of that nature. You need to get out there and get on the street more. Get down to the boots on the ground and find out what's going on. Talk to them, and get to the boots on the ground. Of course, all these incidents are investigated internally and stuff like that, and then through the chain of command gets told about it. But I'd like to get out there and operate with the deputies every once in a while.
Sir.
Or just about every time you get a chance. You got to stay in touch with the boots on the ground and figure out what's going on. And then, like I said, find out where the problem is. And if it's in leadership supervision, then you got to either retrain your supervisors or change supervisors or leadership. And that's what you got to do.
Yes, sir. And I know I'm running low on time. But I'm going to go actually right now and ask you some questions that will lead back to what you just mentioned to me a second ago. But you mentioned the deputies. So in the Charleston County Sheriff's Office, Mr. Burke, how much have they actually reduced response times by?
What was that, response time?
Yes, sir. How much has that been reduced by since this new leader has come into the Sheriff's Office?
Well, I can tell you firsthand. Up until April 11th, I was working the road over there at Folly Beach and working cases and stuff like that. And there's been numerous occasions because of the lack of staff or what have you that when we call them for backup for response times, they'll call it back and say, it'll be about 30 minutes before we can get to you. And that's due to low staffing. And of course, they're busy with handling unincorporated areas and things like that. And we call there and stuff like that. So, I haven't seen really some of the response times being reduced unless if they're not busy or unless, just for example, to my jurisdiction, in the past, in the last 2 or 3 years, that when they get short staffed, is that if they wasn't on James Island, if they were on Johns Island down to Seabrook, Kiowa, and stuff like that, we call for backup, respond. It's there's been numerous occasions where it's about 30 or so minutes before we get there and stuff like that.
Well, Dan, let me ask you this, Mr. Burke. How do you hope to redistribute deputies to provide faster service and response times to those rural areas that you just mentioned?
Well, the thing about it is we got to get the staffing levels back up to where they're at. And until you get the staffing levels back up or whatever, I would thoroughly suggest that you're going to have to pull some of that command staff from behind the desk to go out there and start working shifts, so all the sergeants, lieutenants, if you have to, pull the deputy chiefs out there, the majors, the captains and everybody. It's usually, 9 to 5, or they may have a command officer on call for the weekend to respond and stuff like that. But when you're short staffed, you got to, all hands on deck. You know what I mean? Got to supplement the shortness in the staff because right now on the road and in the jail, they're short staffed, and on the road, a lot of the specialized units only have minimal, specialized units, maybe 2 people, the, captain and maybe one of the sergeants, all the investigators and stuff like that, warrants, special investigations units and things of that nature. It's low staff, but you got, because they have pulled from them special units to try to fill in on the road, but it's still short and your response time.
And I'm going to talk to you about that in a second, and I hope to get current Charleston County Sheriff Quintin to respond to what you just mentioned too. But how do you hope to integrate the community policing concept into a rapidly growing county with densely populated communities, as we all know?
Well, community policing, in the rural areas, you got to It's not the urban setting where you get out and do the foot patrol down the business streets and stuff like that, meet the community business owners. Of course, yeah, it's rural communities, but getting out there and going to the small towns that depend on the county sheriff's office to provide the law enforcement to them. Go to their meetings, the monthly meetings, stay in contact with them, the council. Get out there and drive to them cities and get out the car and go in and talk to people. Go down to the end of 174 and start talking to the stores down there. Go all the way up to McClellanville. Get out at the Dollar General store and all. Get out your cruiser and walk in there and talk with people. Talk with the community, the stores out there in the rural areas and things of that nature. And just stay in touch with people and attend the weekly or monthly city council town hall meetings, city council meetings, and just stay in touch with the business people. And some people that you answer calls with, you can develop a relationship with them out there in the country and rural. They'll talk with you for hours on and just stay in touch with them. That's the way I like to do it. Of course, it's not always possible, but when you get the opportunity, do it. That's the main thing. Stay in touch with everybody in the community.
Yeah, I personally love McCullough a whole lot along with Arndar. Yeah, great areas going on my way to Georgetown most of the time. But let me ask you this: you talk about obviously those areas that we all know and love here in this low country, Arndar, McCullough, Johns Island, Kiowa, Seabrook, Meggett, places like that. When you think of the county right now, Mr. Rocky, what are the 10 top crimes that are occurring right now in this county?
10 top crimes? Well, substance abuse problems, human trafficking, and the gun violence. The gun violence, and I'll call that domestic terrorism. I don't care what anybody don't like me saying that, but it's domestic terrorism. That's what it is. The gun violence, the shootings, the murders, the overdose, fentanyl overdoses, and things of that nature. So what is the top crime? There's a lot of them. But the gun violence, we're losing too many young fathers, leaving too many young children without fathers to gun violence. It's sad on the days that when at 1:41 p.m. in the afternoon, a car is stopped in a small town on a special event day, and it stopped here in Charleston County, and it contains some people from another neighboring county. And when you have 2 assault rifles and 2 handguns taken out of that car, and the occupants of the car that is underage, and then you pull out 38 rounds of .223 ammunition from the car to go with the assault rifles, 2 handguns, 40 caliber handgun, 10 shots in, 4 people in there. At 1:41 p.m. on the afternoon in a small town, in a beach town. And then you just wonder about the gun violence. And numerous calls where guns are taken over that. Numerous juveniles have been picked up coming on these small towns away from their hometown cities or hometown communities at 12:30 in the morning. And a 16-year-old got a handgun in his pocket, sitting in a car to get stopped for speeding. And when they have probable cause to get everybody out the car, he's still got his hands in the pocket on the handgun. And the officers have to take him down when they realize he's got his hand on the gun, a 16-year-old from high school in a neighboring community. The gun violence, the top crime, and, this cyber crime and all this here is causing all kind of havoc. And I know it's a national issue, but the border crisis, letting all the criminals in, the fentanyl, the cartels coming in, using social media to contact the younger generations in every state, every county, to get them involved in the human trafficking and the drug trade and stuff of that nature.
let me go back locally here to the Low Country. What exactly is your 5-point plan to combat gun violence?
Well, first of all, I'm going to say probably can't stop it all. But the thing about it is, when you get intel on something, or you do stop that car, and there are people underage that's got possession of guns, don't just let the investigation stop there. Investigate. What influences that they had in their life, their family life? We got to go back early in the educational system. Go back early and examine the family dynamics to which they got raised in, back in juvenile, 6 years old on up to adolescence, before they get to that point to where they get involved in drugs and guns and gang violence and things like that. It's an all-purpose, all-issue thing that you've got to look at. Instead of just saying, well, we caught them. Luckily, we caught them. They didn't shoot nobody, but they were in possession of a gun, this ammunition. Take it further. Investigate it thoroughly. A lot of these fellows are getting their hands on a lot of stolen guns from unlocked vehicles, okay? And then the gun owners that rightfully own them and legally own them, they're not locking the vehicles, and they're not keeping the serial numbers handy or what have you, that if they do get stolen, that at least we'll have a serial number to put in the databases that when juveniles are stopped or anybody, adults, are stopped carrying a gun unlawfully, at least, we can run the serial number and see if it's one that has been stolen from to try to prevent crimes and things like that. How to stop the gun violence? There again, you got to go back to the family dynamics, the educational system, faith-based systems, community outreach, and everybody, to see if we can stop it. I was just reading in the paper this morning, commentary, that on May the 28th at 8 p.m. in Lexington County, there was a pool party.
Right.
Automatic weapon fire jumped off. One teenager got hit, but they found 75 shell casings. 75 shell casings out there on that scene. And luckily, the sheriff's office and them have 2 people in custody, but I just thank God that there wasn't more shooting, more people injured, that there wasn't no deaths out of that. How do you stop it? I don't know. The thing is, you got to try any and everything as a collaborative effort with all the community outreach, social services, educational system, everybody, the hospitals, MUSC, EMS, fire service, stuff like that, to try to stop that gun violence.
Where do you see the gun violence increasing the most in Charleston County?
Basically, it's all over Charleston County, but and I hate to say it, North Charleston, seem to have the most right now. City of Charleston still has some gun violence. And what scared me is, like I said, my jurisdiction of Folly Beach is ever since 2015, and we have been lucky, but we've had a lot of guns taken from people down there on the beach, down there on East Ashley Avenue, and just the pictures of it. I mean, it's really scary. But the gun violence, I'm just thankful and praise God that we hadn't had a mass shooting and stuff like that. But it seemed to be, and just like the Olive Palms incident last year, and stuff like that, it seemed to be people from other counties going to them localities coming there. So where is it occurring at? It starts in other counties, other states, and I mentioned the other county near Charleston County where they're, and it's just it's just hard to stop it to see where it's going. And that's what I'm saying is I try to stay on top of that kind of stuff, and then making sure. And the patrol officers that are stopping these cars, getting these guns out of here, they're doing their job and doing an excellent job. But my worst fear is that what if somebody slips through the cracks because they're not being proactive? That's when they get complacent and stuff. And that's like the border crisis. People say that, well, that's only in the border states, the border state. Well, every state now is a border issue state because it's coming from the borders, coming to every state. That's bringing this gun violence, the guns, the fentanyl, the drug trafficking, and things of that nature. And we got to find out what's causing the gun violence. What's the motive behind it? Is it retaliation? Is it, is it drug wars? Is it cartel wars? Is it gang wars and things of that? That's what we got.
Do you believe, when it comes to gun violence, Mr. Burke, do you believe the Charleston County Sheriff's Office has become complacent on this issue?
No. I'm not going to say that at all. No. Nobody that I see has become complacent. But what is the problem, and I don't think it's Charleston County Sheriff Office has come complacent on that, because they have these task forces and the gang task forces that they work together, and all police aid is there. The only thing that I would say is that, in other words, you got to do a crime analysis of what's going on in your county. And when you hear this, well, this juvenile was caught with this gun, luckily, we caught him, unlawful carrying or what have you. And like I said, don't just stop the investigation there. You've got to continue to investigate. Where did he get the gun from? How did he get the gun from? Why did he get the gun? To see if they'll tell you that. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
But, and you may not get all the answers, but if you don't try it, to try to be preventive and proactive in what to look for the next time or something like that. And it's kind of hard to articulate,
I understand.
an answer without reviewing reports and stuff like that.
Right. Oh, yeah, of course. Let me.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, you're fine. Since you've been on the campaign trail, have you been able to do a crime analysis of Charleston County?
No, sir. I wouldn't say a detailed crime analysis. But I do keep up with the arrest and things like that. Just like in Folly Beach, I keep up with what the arrest has done, and I read and I have been up until April the 11th.
Yes,
have been part of a database that all the agencies report their summaries and what crime is taking place in all the jurisdictions around me. And I do read them thoroughly and get a fix on what's happening. And you would be surprised that in doing that, when people read that, you'd be surprised that when certain parts of the county or Charleston County or Burke County, what have you, or the municipal police departments here, when they have something happening that, like, our smaller agencies, small town agencies, the smaller agencies that's in a beach town that's used to that, knowing that you're getting an arrest on that you get an analysis of what's happening throughout the county and how it filters in and overflows to your jurisdiction.
And I know you talked a lot about your jurisdiction, Folly Beach, but since you've been on the campaign trail, where have you gone? And when you have went to those particular areas, what are people telling you about crime that is occurring right now in the county?
It's the same thing. I've talked with several people that's had victims. Their family has been victim of homicides, and we talked about that and stuff like that. But with it not being my jurisdiction, there's only something like that. But just listening to them and And I could pretty well tell you, let me tell you, when I worked for the Charleston County Sheriff's Office and my tenure at Folly Beach, I've investigated a lot of crime, okay? I've investigated homicides and shootings down south, around Hollywood, Omega, down all the way up to Georgetown, Old Georgetown Road, McCullenville, South Santee, and stuff like that. Yeah. And what really breaks my heart as an investigator, a few years ago, I had a good partner that we were working together. And it was one thing about us that we can get down there into the darkness of the communities, knowing the groups or the gangs or what have you, and where the problems lie. But what really breaks my heart is that when you're investigating a home invasion, and it was a shootout between the occupants of the home and the suspects, male occupant of the home got killed. His 9-year-old daughter was inside the mobile home when all this was going on. His girlfriend was in there and, returned fire from the mobile home, shot and killed one of the suspects. But the thing that broke my heart was interviewing the 9-year-old juvenile that was in the trailer. Having an interview, what did you see? Investigating another homicide down south there, I knew the victim well. I knew him, first name basis. Wow. Knew him by their street name. And then, then the other side, when it was solved and some people were arrested, I knew their street names. It's getting down there in there and just knowing. And the other thing too is that when an investigation starts, I can't stress this enough, the show 48 hours, everybody thinks I'm a joke. I said first 48. Well, it's true. It's true. It's true, man. You got to stay on that thing, to try to solve. And so that's how I can tell you, because I know what's happening, and I can pretty well kind of gauge you, from seeing the reports, looking at all these other reports, people getting arrested with guns, and the pattern, what school the juveniles go to and everything.
Right. And quickly, I know I'm running out of time, Mr. Rocky, but what are those other trends that you're seeing when it comes to crime in Charleston County? What do you want to watch out for and tackle next?
Well, let's call it white collar crime, okay? Cyber crime, credit card fraud, these gangs that are stealing the purses with the credit cards to fund their illegal activities and stuff like that. Man, there's another epidemic of that every day. And it's just that, cyber crime that's leading to human trafficking, drug trade, fentanyl, but first and foremost is, like I was trying to explain in the first part of this interview, in this modern time, we have got to have a total safety, public safety concept. And the sheriff's office has to work with all the municipal law enforcement agencies, and they got to share intel to try to prevent this gun violence, try to prevent the shootings like on the beachfronts and the shootings like within Lexington County. Right. Everybody in the county, in the neighboring counties, you've got to share intel. That is one problem that I have seen. It used to be when I worked on the county police department, the North Charleston Police Department, years ago.
Right.
man, you could talk to other detectives and other municipal departments, and they work together, man. You work together to solve crimes. I'm just going to be candid with you. Here lately, in the last year or so, I've hit a brick wall in trying to work with other agencies. And it's just, you got to have that collaborative, and everybody's got to work together to solve the problems in the county, in the neighboring counties.
And if you win the primary, I would like to get you back on Quintin's post so we can talk about that in depth from that particular vantage point. But for now, Rocky Burke, a candidate for Charleston County Sheriff, thank you for your time. And again, welcome to Quintin's post.
Thank you again, sir, and it's my honor to be interviewed by you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
You.